Hi everybody and welcome to Simply Scuba. So when we dive, we often use very precise and technical equipment, and when you progress onto sort of overhead environments like caves and wrecks, you start to invest in the most technical and precise equipment available to us, line markers. You see, when you dive into overhead environments, you need to make sure that you can get back out safely. One of the biggest terrors of diving in caves and shipwrecks is sudden unexpected loss of visibility when silt gets stirred up or it falls down from the ceiling. If fine silt is stirred up into the water from your movements or bubbles disturbing stuff on the ceiling, it can take days to settle, and you don't have days when you're underwater. So if you lose all visibility and you can't see your nose in front of your face, you need a way to find your way back out to safety. So cave divers will lay guidelines, just like Hansel and Gretel, a trail to actually follow your way back to the exit. But cave systems can be very complicated, and if you can't see anything, you don't know whether you're following that line out of the cave or deeper into it, and that is where line markers come in. Line markers started years and years ago when the first generation of cave explorers used things like pegs and basically stuff that they had on them in certain places on that line to help them identify where they were and which way they were facing. Today they're a little more technical than closed pegs, but not by much, to be honest. Line markers are simple plastic shapes that we put on lines to help us know which way we are going and basically where we are by touch alone. The most important thing, however, is that this video does not constitute cave training in any way. If you are not qualified to dive in overhead environments, then don't. It's dangerous and you need proper training and equipment as well. This video is just so that if you come across a line marker in the wild, at least you know what it is. These are the most common line marker, and they're a triangle that always points out of a cave. They always point to safety, and they will always point to the nearest exit point. So if you're feeling your way along the line and you come across an arrow, it will always point in the direction that you should go. If you're in a cave system with multiple exits and you're dead center in the middle of that cave, then you can find two arrows next to one another pointing in opposite directions, and that's because you're literally in the middle and either way is the shortest way out. In serious cave diving, line arrows can also point to the nearest air source. But if you're kind of at this point and in that kind of cave system, then you're already a pretty serious cave diver and you should already know what you're doing. If it's a well-established cave system, then you'll probably find some permanent line arrows always fixed. If you're bringing and sort of fitting your own line markers going into a cave system, then you should collect the ones that you're dropping on the way back out. Otherwise, the line just ends up getting a bit cluttered. But if you come across someone else's arrows or a permanent line marker, then don't touch them, just kind of leave them where they are. If you come across a line marker with a number on it, the number is probably going to be a distance note. You leave an arrow every so often on a line, so every 30 meters or every 100 yards or whatever it is. That way you're never too far away from one, but the little number sort of written on it will probably be how far you need to go to get out of that cave. It's not always, unfortunately, because some divers do it slightly differently, but that is a common way to mark an arrow. You usually put a personalization on one side and then some information on the other. Cookies are non-directional. They are a perfect, well, they're a circle basically, and they basically mark points of interest or what another team is sort of doing in the cave, so they can put this cookie and it's not going to lead you in the wrong direction. If someone else is kind of in the same cave system and they're following the line, a cookie won't cause any confusion or point them in the wrong direction because they don't point in any way, they're a circle. Cookies are just reminders for you and your team which way you are going or where something is. Guidelines are rarely just one long length, a single piece of line from start to finish. You'll often have multiple paths branching off and jump lines between them. So it can be good to mark your specific line, and it's a good idea to personalize your markers as well. As with all line markers, cookies come in a range of different colors and styles. They'll all be circular, but they may have a certain corner kind of cut off them, or some other kind of detailing that the diver has put on them, because divers like to personalize their markers by writing on them and making them very distinctive so that other divers can't confuse it for one of theirs and remove it by mistake, because that's the last thing you want to do. If you're in a popular cave, then you could have multiple teams diving in that cave all at once, and you don't want to be messing with their markers. An REM is a referencing exit marker. These kind of blur the lines between directional and non-directional. REMs are like a little square or like a rectangular slate, and I mean a little slate. They're only like, I don't know, an inch across. But whilst they're square and won't point a casual viewer in either direction, to you and your team, it can point you in a direction. REMs are slightly off-center, so they can point you in one direction, but they also have a small space for writing messages as well. On one side, that should be used for personalization. As I said earlier, you write your initials or something tactile so that you know that this is your line marker. The other side is for simple messages, so it's a teeny tiny little slate. If your team gets separated in the cave or something, you can write that you passed this point at a certain dive time, then divers behind you won't waste time looking for you because they know that you're already ahead of them. REMs can point you to your exit, but not others because they're a square. Because bear in mind that one man's exit may be too small for someone else. If you're diving on side mount, you might be able to squeeze through that exit, but if someone else is diving on twins and they come across it and go, oh, okay, here's an exit, they might not be able to get out. So that's kind of what sort of REMs are for. You want to be sure that you're heading for the right exit, and that's where REMs really shine. As you can imagine, you usually have a few line markers on you so that you can tag the line when you need to, but you can't just leave them loose in a thigh pocket or something, because in the water, they're just going to float off as soon as you open that pocket, and everyone's just going to make fun of you. So divers make a line marker holder, and some call it a pigtail. So a pigtail is simply a short length of bungee or surgical tubing, a little bit too chunky for the hole in your line marker. One end will attach to a bolt snap to clip it to a D-ring, or you can attach it to a torch or something permanent, just somewhere that's convenient but is less likely to get snagged. When you pull on the end of your pigtail, because you've got a little knot on the end of it, the bungee will get thinner as you stretch it, so you can slip a line marker on, and then when you let go of that little knot, the bungee unstretches and becomes chunky again, and that basically locks the line marker so they don't move around. You want the bungee or tubing to be thick enough that you can get the marker on and off when it's stretched, but not so thin that they just kind of slip off when they are stretched. It's that kind of catch-22. Line markers are really essential when you can't see where you're going, and arrows have quickly become a symbol for scuba divers. Not just cave divers, but all divers have probably seen a line arrow somewhere on a logo or a t-shirt, but now that you know what they actually mean, basically. Bear in mind that the standard line markers all started from one guy making them by hand, and then he sold them. They were basically a group of cave divers, and they just thought, hey, yeah, we need this, let's make it. The same with so many scuba diving pieces of equipment. It basically starts from a group of divers with a passion and an idea, and they can't find it anywhere, so they just make it themselves. But that's line markers. They're pretty simple, which is why I didn't make this video too long. Just again, the way that they can be used may be different in some places, so definitely make sure that you know what you're doing. And if it's not your line marker, then don't touch it and don't follow it. Also, don't leave your line markers everywhere to confuse other divers or litter. Try to leave with the same amount of markers that you entered with. And if you haven't done a cave course, then don't even think about it. That little siren call kind of urging you to go a little bit deeper into that cave system because, oh, it's not that bad here. Nah, just turn that off, turn the other way and head back to the light because it's really not worth it. Thank you for watching, everybody, and safe diving.